Deep in the forests of North America, a creature is said to exist. A creature that people are encountering. With far too many reports to ignore, there are elements of truth behind these accounts that mankind can no longer ignore.
Breaking news out of Texas, Bigfoot is real.
Could a breeding population of large, upright, hairy hominids really exist in North America? Or is there something more paranormal at work here, deep in the woods? If just one footprint, one wood knock, or one howl is real, then man's understanding of primate evolution would be changed forever. Join the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective as they delve further into the mysteries of Bigfoot and other paranormal phenomena through the eyes of witnesses, investigators, critics, and skeptics. Join us as we look to discover what lurks from behind tall trees.
And we are live. Got New York Bigfoot Society in the house tonight. Gary Robusto, Kenney Irish. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you for having us.
In the house tonight. Gary Robusto, Kenney Irish. Got a bit of an echo there.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. If I look not interested for the next 45 seconds, I'm just finishing up sharing the crap out of this.
Oh, no.
Oh, you're the man. Thank you. By all means, have at
Promotion.
Yeah, exactly.
it. So, Mike, go ahead. You want to start?
Yeah, so it's been getting warm. Yeah, it's been getting getting warmer out. As a New York resident, I'm definitely pumped to have you guys on the show. It's getting like I said, it's getting warmer out. What are you guys' plans for getting out in the woods the next coming couple of weeks, couple of months?
I've been out, actually. I just got in an hour ago so I've already started. I've been out the last 2 weeks. College is just about done. I'm back in school right now at 42 years old, so that's a lot. But I'm going for field biology for a biologist position. But yeah, so the last 2 weeks we've been out. I have stories I can tell, actually, because we had some weird stuff happen today when I was back out into the woods. So that's kind of what we're doing. The season is on their way. So I plan on being out at least bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks hopefully I'll get out. I have 2 brand new spots in the Adirondacks I want to check out. I have 1 brand new spot in the Catskills that I want to put together. So there are projects, so hoping it's going to be a busy summer. I have no school this summer. I'm taking the whole summer off.
There we go.
So I plan on just chilling, having a good time, getting out into the woods. And, maybe not even finding Bigfoot. Who cares about that stuff as much as, have fun out in the woods and just, see what we can find and do.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually one of the things, from my experiences being out in the woods, let's be real, 99.99% of the times you're not going to see anything, but it's really like the weird stuff that you could wind up coming across is what, really adds a lot of intrigue to it, in my opinion, at least.
No, I 100% agree with you. You know what I mean? Like you say, like 9 out of 10 times you don't find nothing, but you still make the best of it. You're still out there having fun. You're in nature and you're away from people. And that's the best. That's what because you can need a break. And that's like I say, that's like my social break,
Yeah, for sure. So I was curious, what are some differences between the Catskills and Adirondacks? Just like, whether it's the environment, terrain, proclivities of, like whatever might be there that you've noticed, like how are your approaches different for going into those 2 areas? I know they're kind of like the 2 main like hotspots in New York. So.
Yeah, well, and the Finger Lakes area is huge for Bigfoot. Watertown, New York is huge for Bigfoot. Boonville is huge for Bigfoot. So the difference is it's pretty simple. It's just the geography alone. The Adirondacks is still continually growing. So those mountains are getting taller each season. When you get down to the Catskills, that's all glacier till. So when you deal with glacier till, you're dealing with the ice age and the rocks that have formed from the ice age as the glacier receded. With that, it's all rock. So when you're down in the Catskills, it's rock scrambling for days. A lot of the forests are a lot different down in the Catskills also as you get up above tree line. It's very open. It's very sparse. When you're up in the Adirondacks, it's a little bit different on the lower side. The forests are a lot thicker, more dense in nature, a lot more bodies of water, swampy areas and things like that. And then as you get into the Adirondack high peaks, up around the Lake Placid area, they start to get more sporadic when you're in the alpine zones. So when you look at just the geography alone, a Sasquatch would have to have two totally separate ways to be able to navigate in those areas.
So yeah, like I go to the I try to get to the Adirondacks at least once a year, So I'm fairly familiar. I'm fairly familiar with the area, and I know just between like whether it's like the BFRO or other databases, there's a lot of sightings that, and not just like the Whitehall area, but like Essex County, that area around Saranac Lake, Lake Placid. A lot of reports come out of there.
Yep.
What I'm curious about, though, maybe you guys could shed some light on this. I know, like between the high peaks, I've probably done about 11, 12 so far myself. I know like those trails have a piss load of foot traffic. With that said, like based on the reports you guys get out of there, are the reports generally like coming from those high peak areas, or more like the surrounding areas, private property type? Like, what have you noticed in that regard?
So Saranac Lake and Indian Lake are very squatchy areas. When you get into that hike, I just actually did a report on this, and I'm once again an aspiring 46er myself, that it's so busy in these areas that there's so many people that you don't get the reports. You really don't. The only place I really have gotten reports out of the high peak areas would be around Giant and Rocky. So over in that area, which is so that's on the outskirts as you're coming into the Adirondack Park. And Elk Pass. So you hear when you go into the Elk Pass section, which you can only get into certain times a year because they close the road. That once again, you'll hear some reports coming out of there. But majority of those reports are all in more of the lowlands, which would make sense once again. A lot of people, we talk, especially in the Catskills. Okay, let's take the Catskills, right? So you're only got 3,500 feet in elevation for most of those mountains, right? And 38, some of them. But once again, a lot of the reports come from the lower sections of the mountains. You're not getting them up in the higher sections of the mountains. It's easier to travel. So just like when we're hiking these hills and trying to go up and do our thing, a creature that would be as large as a Sasquatch, think about the amount of energy they would have to expend just to climb a mountain, so just like what we do. So a lot of the reports we get are more in the lower lands, like you say, Whitehall, Vermont border, all around like, the lake, you hear them around Lake George area, Warrensburg area. Those are all lower lands. Lake Luzerne area, Hadley, which once again, you do have the mountains there, but those mountains are a lot smaller, and it would make logical sense that, it's all pines too, a lot of pines. And this is where all these reports come out of.
So I want to circle back to your philosophy about the pines in a little bit. I know Kenny's kind of strapped for time right now, so I want him to get a word or two in. Kenny, I know you've got a couple of big events coming up that you're going to be speaking at, appearing at over the next couple weeks and months. What's going on? Yeah, you want to fill us in on what you got going on with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually this weekend, May 7th, Friday, I'm flying out to Tennessee, to Knoxville. Just outside of Knoxville, there's an area called Townsend. Well, that's the name of the city, and they're holding a big festival there. It's the second one that they're having. Last year I was supposed to be at the first one, but my flight got canceled last minute. But it's the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. So they've been selling a ton of tickets. There's a lot going on out there, so it's going to be a really good time. Ken Gerhard's going to be there. Ron Moorhead. The guys from three of the guys from the show Mountain Monsters are going to be there. They're going to be speaking as well. And they're going to have some cool acts. You guys have probably heard of Slash Squatch. Well, they had Slash Squatch there last year, and I guess it was a phenomenal show. So Sasquatch or Slash Squatch is going to be back, and then they got the act Mini Kiss, which is 4 little people that are dressed up as Kiss and play, and they play the songs. plus there's going to be about I think there's like 80 vendors are going to be there, as well as like 50 food vendors. So it's a big event. It's going to be a good time. Last year, Cliff Brackman was there. It's again, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, that's in Townsend, Tennessee. And then in July 30th, it's the last weekend in July. I'm going to be in Michigan at the Michigan Bigfoot conference there. Lyle Blackburn's going to be there. Russell Accord's going to be there, and a few other people. And then there's the Lake Champlain Champ Monster Festival, the beginning of August, which I'm going to be at, but I'm one of the people helping organize. And then the week after that, I'm going to be in, I think it's, where is it? Texas? It's Texas or Tennessee. Oh, it's Tennessee. Back in Tennessee for the Dogman Conference / Cryptid Festival that Josh Turner from Paranormal Roundtable's putting on. Lyle Blackburn. Well, I don't know if Lyle's still going to be there. I do know that Nick Redford's going to be there. Ken Gerhard's going to be there. Josh is going to be there, and a bunch of other people. So, and then there's a couple other ones that are kind of in the works. There's some that I had to turn down for different reasons, but there should be as of right now I think it's the last weekend in September, the Whitehall, New York Sasquatch Festival that we all met at last year. So I know that's in the works. And then in October, I'm going to be in Tarrytown, New York at the what's it called? It's oh my god, the Sleepy Hollow Con. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. So I'll be there, and then working something out. Looking at a couple dates for November and December at a couple different locations. So
Nice.
Hey Kenny, real quick, Kenny, how's your tooth doing? Remember at that Whitehall, we're supposed to hang out after the little tooth.
Oh, it's all set. Yeah. I broke it,
good?
chipped. Yeah, piece of it fell off, and it was killing me.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. That's probably better off you didn't hang out. Brendan got us all drunk. It was terrible.
Yeah.
She was
Well, he got you drunk. Don't put me on the same level that you were at. You were slurring your words. You were.
I was walking around aimlessly.
But the worst part was
Kenny,
the worst part was the next day we tried to film, and Charlie was too hungover to do anything. I wasn't feeling too hot myself. I'm sorry I cut you off, Charlie.
No worries. And then Kenny, congratulations on the continued success of your book on Amazon and everything like that. You really tearing it up with that thing.
Awesome. It's done well in the first year. It hit number 1 3 times, and I believe around August, the follow up to it is going to be released called International Cryptids and Legends. So I actually left the United States and picked some countries, and so it follows the same formula. Opens up. It kind of gives a brief history on the country, and then just goes through and just talks about some different cryptids and monsters and legends. And I always say the second you get out of the United States and you start talking about monsters, man, everything gets weird. I mean, it gets weird. So I've enjoyed writing it, but I've hated it all at the same time, because it's so different. And, and everything that is said to be, flesh and blood is everything's spirit out there as well. And but there's some really, really cool legends like Baba Yaga, the Witch Lady. There's all these different things that we cover in the book. And Josh Turner, again, a Paranormal Roundtable, is going to be writing the forward for it. So looking forward to that. And so yeah, just having a fun time writing it. And I've been really, really busy, trying to do that, because I told him I would have him the first draft manuscript by June 1st, which I kind of shot myself in the foot there. So, but I don't know, I'm about 75% done, and I think I write better under pressure anyways. So
there you go. Hey, what's the dog's name, Kenny?
Well, his name is Mouse, but we call him Little Man. He's a rescue. He was about 10 when we got him. We got him back in 2019. So he was hanging out with Dad and yelling at everybody walking by the house. So I had to grab him. So he's a good boy.
Cute.
So what are some? So in your new book, what are some of the like the cryptids and particular cryptids and stories that you've done your research on that have really like that you really found like extraordinarily peculiar that kind of like stood out to you?
Boy, that's pretty much and anything that wasn't a Bigfoot was extraordinary. I mean, and some of them are like the giant spiders, with legs that are 6 feet long, and people have seen them come into villages and take kids and dogs. Again, Baba Yaga, she if you look her up, she's this hideous witch. Who's
John Wick?
What's that?
I thought that was John Wick.
Yeah.
You guys ever saw John Wick?
Yeah. No, I haven't, but I think I know what you're talking about. Like she's got like her house is said to be on chicken legs, so it can continuously move, and she can't be caught, and she, flies around at night and takes people down. There's just all some just weird stuff. Just but again, it's very different. I've kind of gotten used to a lot of it, kind of the directions it's going, but everything is spiritual, and everything is dark, everything is demon. It's just that I don't know, it's just, I guess, the way the country see it. But I cover, like I cover Krampus, the Christmas
Austria,
I cover that, and the Mank, the Russian Yeti that some people blame, and the Mansi tribe, they blame him. They say he's the reason for the whole Delacol Pass, all those hikers that went up and got slaughtered. Yeah. So so I cover that, and again, just a lot of weird stuff.
Did you cover a lot of how many like cryptids or stories did you cover that came out of particularly like the Papua New Guinea area? I know that's kind of called like the Lost World. It's one of the least explored. I think it's like the least explored place in the world. I know there's like a lot of weird stories that come out of there.
I actually didn't.
Really?
Yeah. So, but again, this is just book number 2.
Right.
Book number 3 sounds like we got one.
Sounds like you got one right there.
Exactly. I've already got outlines, to book number 3 and book number 4 of how we're going to follow them, and then I'm going to be coming back into the United States on one of them, like book number 3. I'm looking at being in the U.S. and out of the U.S. So to try to mix it up a little bit, because I mean, as you guys know, I mean, there's so many monsters talked about just in the US that, even though I covered all 50 states and talked about so many different monsters, how many I didn't get to talk about. So yeah, like the 3rd and the 4th is just going to be global instead of just, like international or American.
So I wanted to go back to you mentioned the Lake Champlain conference that you're going to. Mm-hmm. I remember when we had you on last season, you said one of the things that you really got into before you got swept in the whole Bigfoot phenomena was the lake monster phenomena, Champ, and everything like that. Did you happen to catch that? I didn't give Brendan any photos or videos to post, but did you happen to catch that new video that came out of Loch Ness that supposedly showed something moving through the water or something like that?
Yeah, I watched it, and I know what people were saying that they were seeing. I couldn't see it. I couldn't even, and it just, to me, it just kind of looked like a wave or a log or something, if that. And after I was watching it, my head was starting to explode trying to like look at it and keep my eyes on it. I was like, okay, enough. So but yeah, that was what, a couple months ago that came out, and it was a stationary camera. Like it was in like where was the camera? It was on like a pole or something, and they were saying that the reason that a lot of people think it's legit because and it wasn't messed with because of, what was it, sheep that were in the video as well. There were sheep or something that were in the video that were moving around, so you could see like something, like they weren't skipping, like it wasn't freezing up and then fast forwarding or anything. So but again, I didn't really see anything in the water that was worth even
that's Scream Nessie
pursuing. Yeah.
Gotcha. I had a follow-up question to that. Yeah. So, yeah, this is kind of like a question. This is kind of like a question to both of you. Just based on just based on the research and everything like that you did, what would I, there's really no wrong answers, but besides Bigfoot, and I guess for some of us the jury's still out on whether or not it could be, it's real or not. But what do you think, besides Bigfoot, what else out there do you think is like most likely to be, has like the most realistic chances of existing, or like the cryptids phenomena you've researched?
I definitely I go right to lake monsters. I mean, there's I mean, if you see something, then it drops down into the water. Very well, could be something. And again, with all the water that all the oceans that used to be connected to the lakes. I mean, all these different things. And, a lot of people talk about underground tunnels. Again, nothing I can prove, but I would say that, if something could hide the best, it would be in some type of body of water. So anything, not necessarily something with a horse head, like Champ is supposed to have, but, anything that is, maybe not necessarily discovered, I would say definitely anything floating around in any bodies of water.
Yeah, I mean, I just stay on the Bigfoot thing, honestly. I mean, there's other things I enjoy to look into. Like, I'm a big Jersey Devil person. I love the lore of the Jersey Devil. That's like that's actually my favorite cryptid. If you ask me what my favorite one, Jersey Devil all day long. But from a logical standpoint, like I say, I would say lake monsters like Kenney, only because there's so many things in the deep ocean that we don't know anyway. We already know that. But I kind of just stay within the Bigfoot phenomena. I can't get into Mothman, I can't get into Thunderbirds, really, those kind of things, which they just logically don't make sense. So I try to keep it really logical, and stay within, things that can make sense into science. And I stay at that point.
There's one cryptid I did a little bit of research on. I'm not sure if you covered this in your book or not, Kenney. It's called Megalania. It's like a 30-40 foot giant Komodo dragon or lizard or something like that. It's in like it's supposedly been sitting like Indonesia, Australia, Papua New Guinea. Did you touch on that in your book, or that story, or
I no, but there is a what's it? We might actually even be talking about the same one. It's like Condo. Is that the name that you've got? It's like Condo. It's like it's like a huge reptile, kind of like dinosaur.
I don't think so. The thing, just Megalania is the name that.
Okay. Yeah. The only mega was from that movie that with the mega shark. That's the only thing that I came across.
Megalodon.
Megalodon, yeah.
Megalodon. There you go. Yes. Great
Even
movie,
that,
by the way.
I mean, yeah, if a megalodon still exists, that's pretty badass. I mean, but everything would be gone. Like they would those things are amazing. But they actually do keep saying they see sightings of these things. Like every once in a while, I'll be reading about it. Like, oh, there's a megalodon. I'm like, there ain't no megalodon. Like, there's just not.
Well, the thing with the megalodons is, so a lot of scientists think that they actually didn't really hang out much in like deep water. I think they actually dwelled in like relatively shallow water, and they think they were like ambush predators. They kind of like got things from below, and like they think as the currents the currents change, temperatures change in the water, kind of killed off their food supplies. That's what really did them in. I say, that could very well be the case. That probably is the case, but who's to say that they didn't adapt? Like sharks in general are a really resilient species. They've been here, before dinosaurs. They survived so many major natural disasters and events that happen on Earth. They're probably going to be here long after we're gone. So, anything's possible. And like you said, Gary, less than over 90% of the oceans are unexplored. So, anything's definitely possible in that regard.
Yep, that's why
Hey,
lake
hey.
monsters are the way to go with that kind of stuff. Only because, like, if you're looking at, from a mystical and spiritual standpoint, but if you look at it from logic, like you said, we don't know the bottoms of the oceans yet. We're still identifying species of insects, just insects alone. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
So really, when you stop to really think about it, think about how many cryptid insects there are that we've never even seen. But others be like, oh, we have this, like that can't exist. And then you go down to like the Congo, and then you're like, oh my God, this thing exists, So
And it's this big.
It's this big, yeah. Yeah.
Real quick, we had a question from Tommy Cooper from Cryptovania. He asked if you ever heard of the Kinzu Nessie, another lake monster. I guess out in
No,
Kinzu Reservoir.
I haven't. No, haven't come.
Yeah,
across
that's like their Nessie out there in Western PA, like Allegheny National Forest area. It's yeah, I'm sure you guys know Allegheny State Park in Western New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, the I think the Kinzua Reservoir it goes into New York, then down in PA. Yeah, that area. We had an expedition there a couple of years ago that turned out pretty well.
So Kenny, real quick before you go, when you get down to Terrytown, let me know. I'm right there. I can be there within an hour. So keep me posted.
I live in Westchester. Tarrytown's only
literally
like 10 minutes up 87 from me. So.
Oh, really? Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's the first year that they're doing the event. Chris Sanders is the one that's heading it up, and so I'm just going there. I'm just selling my books and just being there. And I'm like, this is a first event, and it's so close. I'm like, this is just cool because I love, because it's supposed to follow the path of Halloween. That's why it's in October, and the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and I love the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. When I'm talking about New York in American Cryptids, I actually talk about Terrytown and Sleepy Hollow and everything. So when I heard about that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on board with that. That's awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
Maybe Mike, you could help with the question, but there's a hotel up in Tarrytown. It looks like a castle. And they actually have a life-size like chessboard. You can actually move the pieces around. It's pretty sweet. So if you go there, check that out too.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I didn't know that castle was a hotel, but I think I know what you're talking. It's on like the top of a hill or something like that. I see it every time I drive up on 87 North.
I thought it was like a real like rich person. I didn't realize that was a hotel or
that's what I figured.
I think it's a hotel. It's a. Yeah, but they supposedly have a big, huge chessboard. So check it out.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think besides Tarrytown, just keep Chester on topic. It's really rare that I get to talk about my home county. Yeah. But I think there have been a couple of Squatch sightings supposedly. Like the northern parts. I think besides that, all we have is just Buckout Road in Harrison. You guys probably never even heard of that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so the story with Buckout Road is there used to be like this old dilapidated red house, and the story was like a family of albinos lived there, and if you drive up, beep 3 times, they would come out and like attack your car or something like that.
I heard that story. Yes, I know that was. I've heard that story. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the house they tore it down long time ago, about well over 10 years ago now, I want to say. But it's definitely a creepy stretch of road. But yeah, aside from that, a couple of Bigfoot sightings and Headless Horseman. That's really our main paranormal claims to fame down here.
Headless Horseman, though, that's it. You say something else that's going to beat that. You just can't. Yeah. There's absolutely nothing. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, but yeah, Kenny, I know you got to go soon. Definitely appreciate you taking the time. Happy birthday to your daughter. It's always great to catch up.
Happy birthday to your daughter.
Yeah, it's always happy birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry I got to jump off. I mean, Gary was telling me about it at the beginning of May. I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, holy crap. But but for anybody, if by chance anybody's in an American Idol fan. On this day 17 years ago, Scott Sable, one of the singers, he was awesome, but he got kicked off. So, unfortunately. So.
Well, thank you.
Thought I'd let you know. But all right, guys. Thanks for having me on, and it's always a great time
Absolutely.
talking to you guys. And hopefully we'll be able to hook up again at an event sometime real soon. Hopefully maybe you guys will be at the Whitehall event again, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think we're planning. I think that's the plan, right?
Yeah,
We had a great time at it last year.
Good. Yeah, it's kind of our Bluff Creek, to be honest with you, it's so everybody knows it, and I mean last year was a blast, and I mean it just keeps growing and growing. So last year there was still some COVID scare, and this year I think we're gonna get twice as many people, which would be phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Gary's gonna be there this year, though. I think he said he's gonna try to be there.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I know you guys keep trying to get me to go.
I did the howling contest last year, so you got to do it this year, Gary.
Yes, exactly.
They tried.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, guys. Be safe,
easy,
and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Thanks, Kenney.
Later, Ken.
So, Gary, before we get into the nitty gritty, if you don't mind me. There he is. Okay. If you don't mind me asking, I know. So you've had two Class A sightings.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you want to just tell us about? Yeah. Would you want to just tell us about those real quickly? How those went down?
Yeah, I can give you a quick rundown. So I wasn't a believer in Bigfoot when I started doing Bigfoot at all. Honestly, like I tell everybody, I owned a paranormal business, and I still own a paranormal business for a very long time, and I got bored of doing ghost. It just got boring to me after a while. So I ended up looking into cryptids and things like that, got into Bigfoot phenomenon, and kind of went from there. So my first encounter was after we just got done filming America's Book of Secrets on History Channel. And once again, I just went back into the woods just to kind of just go up. I mean, I love hiking. I like being in the woods. Long story short, I had a night vision monocular with me. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's this little thing you put up to your eye, and it's a monocular. So it's only one eye, and you can see in the dark. I was coming down this trail. Now, I am in a Bigfoot active area only because that's one of our research areas. And sure enough, as I was walking down the trail, I saw something on the side of a tree. Now, for me, I thought I just want to see animals. I would not say Bigfoot, nothing. And I thought it was like a raccoon, a porcupine, a possum. And I got all jazzed. I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. Look at this. I'm seeing something on the side of a tree. So next thing you know, it blinked at me. And then when it blinked at me, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. No, that's not what I thought it was. My body got into that flight or fright type situation. Now, this is at nighttime. And sure enough, my anxiety shot up. I'm like, well, what am I looking at? Like, this is insane. And then it slowly turned and then walked to the left, and it went up into the woods, and I was watching it, and it slowly walked away. That was my first encounter. And honestly, I got out of the woods so fast. Now, I'm a person who literally is always in the woods. I've come across bears in the woods at 1 o'clock in the morning, things like that. Nothing like that really bothered me. But that encounter, because I did not expect to see it, wasn't ready for it at all, shook me for a minute. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting out of the woods now because I'm not in research mind. I'm just in normal civilian hanging out in the woods type, thing. So that was my first encounter. My second encounter actually came, I think it was 2020. It was recently, because last 2020. I was actually, once again, I was tracking in the winter. So what I like winter hiking, I do a lot of snowshoeing, things like that. So I'm up in the back of the woods, way back in the woods, snowshoeing, tracking animals. So coyotes and different animal tracks. Well, the same time when I was out in the woods, though, there was 2 forest rangers, New York State DC forest rangers, in the woods with me at the same time, which I found kind of strange in itself. Actually say I'm in school to be able to work with these people, and to see them in the woods with me in this spot where they really shouldn't be, kind of was making me, and they were kind of paralleling me through the woods, which I found kind of strange too. Well, I came around a corner and there's this big ridge line. Okay. And sure enough, as I came around the corner, I'm just looking down, looking for tracks. And as I came, I looked up. And sure enough, there was one standing right on the ridge line staring at me. Now, when I looked up, when it noticed that it saw me, it stopped and then it turned and it slowly went back down the ridge on the back side. I know exactly what I saw. Of course, I got my phone out like this. I started snapping as many photos as I could. I did get a grainy photo because it's super far away of absolutely nothing, as I like to call it. But that was my second encounter. That one was weird to me too, because literally it's almost like when you're staring at something and you know they're staring at you. Like, it was weird because I knew it was staring at me. And we kind of just stopped. And like when I stopped at the same time, like just staring. And then, like I said, once it noticed that I saw it, it went down the back of the ridge. At the same time, those forest rangers were actually going around the back side of that ridge on the other side of me. So I just kept snowshoeing around and came back out the other side because I was about 3-4 miles back in the woods when that all happened. So that was that story.
And I like how you mentioned that you took out your phone and tried to take pictures, because one of the biggest, most common questions that I get faced with from skeptic, like from like hardcore skeptics is, we have all these, like we're literally in an age where literally everyone has a camera on them. So you figure someone would have taken, a picture of this by now. What a lot of people really don't realize, and this is just my opinion, is number one, the time it takes for you to, like after like that brief period of shock subsides, like you realize what you're seeing, the adrenaline's pumping, you go through like the whole fight or flight thing.
Yeah.
You have to reach into your pocket, pull out your phone, put in your password, get the camera app up. You have to, zoom in, focus or whatever. And by the time you do all that, like if you have that money shot,
It's done. And the only reason I did it, honestly, and I'm guilty of I'm not even just that, like anything, you know what I mean? I like take tons of nature pictures, but you have to take your phone out. The only reason I even did that was because I already had my phone out. So my phone was already out because I was taking pictures of tracks on the ground. So as I'm walking, I'm like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's this? And just snapping pictures. So that's the only reason I did that, because if my phone was already unlocked, it was already open, it was on the camera thing. And then I just went like this and just started taking pictures of, once again, it was so far away. To me, it was close. Once again, it was so far away. So it's like, and it comes out like nothing. I sent it to one of my buddies who does all that like photo stuff. And you can see it in the photo, but I will never show the photo because it's garbage. It's not, I was the only one there. And once again, it's like kind of what we were talking before the show. It's a story. It's another story, so, and that's the people like, the skeptics, you can believe me or not believe me. It doesn't change the fact of what I saw for myself. And that's like when we were talking, that's why I look at the Bigfoot phenomena now totally different than when I did even 5, 6, 7 years ago, when I was really deep into it from the entertainment side. Now it's complete. I took a 180 turn. So that's kind of, evolution, you know what I mean? Of a researcher, I guess.
Yeah. And, the other thing too, real quickly, that a lot of people don't realize is, so, the human eye sees in like 500 something odd megapixels, super clear, super detailed. A lot of these iPhone cameras, that we carry, our smartphone cameras, I think they only go up to like 100 and something. You might have to fact check me, but like megapixels, like a mere fraction of what the human eye, what the human eye is able to see in terms of like depth and detail and everything like that. So I think that's another important factor that people really don't consider when they ask, how come there aren't any clear photos? And no,
and it's and once again, that's always, I mean, let's be real, like we're dealing with subject matters that either people believe it or they don't. There's no in between. There's, people, until people see one, 9 times out of 10, they could be, it could, but they're going to rip you apart until you see one.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's unfortunately the Bigfoot phenomena in general, is that's what we deal with. So, the thing I've always said to people, like, and we've talked about it, you have the flesh and blood side of the Bigfoot phenomena where people think that they're apes or humans or type of human, right? Then you have the paranormal side of the Bigfoot, spiritual side of the Bigfoot people that think they're shapeshifters. They go into portal holes. They can cloak themselves. It's like you're on Star Wars, right? It's, may the 4th be with you. Then you have the alien. Then you have the UFO people who are like, no, I've seen them come out of UFOs. And I've heard plenty of cases like that. And that's where this whole phenomena kind of just goes. Everybody's like, woo, it explodes. Because until we've all had, like, the people like myself and others that have seen one, like my buddy Joe from Western New York Bigfoot, he says, he goes, I've seen what I think is a Bigfoot. And I say the same thing. Like, you know what? If you show me a picture of a Bigfoot, that's what I saw. Can I tell you for a fact it was a Bigfoot? I can't. But if you show me a picture of a rabbit and then I see a rabbit, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I leave it. You know what I mean with that. And that's kind of where I've grown to this point, is to leave it, because it's like, it does. My story really doesn't matter. What matters is the work that the NYBS, CARC, other people are doing in the woods to then further the knowledge and further the databases in this subject matter for the people that don't come out. Or when they come out to us, they're like, I have a story I don't really want to tell you. And it really bothers me inside because you're going to think I'm crazy. Like, those are the people I want to help, to be like, listen, it's okay. It's okay, because we have enough stuff to back up what you're saying. And we've had experiences too, a lot of us, and those are the people I want to help. Not the people in the chat rooms that are like, oh my God, you said that you said that's not a Bigfoot. Look at that track. And it's a double bear step or some kind of stuff.
And that's what I like too about your. I'm sorry, Charlie. I know you're trying to get a word in, but I was gonna say,
that's all right, Mike.
That's kind of what I like too. Just like that objective mindset you have, because I know I presented some possible photographic and audio, video and audio evidence to you, and you were immediately you're immediately very candid, very straightforward about it. You told me why you don't why you don't think, or why it wasn't what we all wanted it to be. So just having that having that good balance and just that objective mindset is definitely something it
took a long time. I'm not gonna lie, it took a long time. It really did. When I first got into Bigfoot, I'm like, oh my God, look at all this crazy shit in the woods, and this is nuts. And next thing you know, I'm like, well, there's snow load on a tree, there's this, there's that, and Kenney will Kenney will send me sounds, and I know the animal sounds. Animals make insane amounts of different sounds that we don't even know that they make, because once again, biologists and field biologists, all my background is in animal behavior and science. That's what I've done. So it's like, you can understand those kind of things. And then I have people that are, bushcrafters, survivalists, hunter, like extreme hunters, like real big game hunters and things, that they can sit there, and if I send them something, they'll be like, even that I don't know, I'll be like, oh, like, what do you think this is? Like my buddy Will the Hunter Man. I go to him for anything that is bush, because that guy's knowledge base is beyond. And it's like, you got to have good people like that.
Sure.
And they'll tell it the way it is. And I try to keep it logical, but I do get excited. Just like everybody, like I'll tell you my story today. That was kind of cool. But in the same sense, like you do get excited, and you can't help it, because you're out in the woods. We want to find something, regardless of, we say, oh, we don't care. Like, no, we're in the woods. I'm having a good time. But you want that Oprah aha moment. You know what I mean? That's like, all right, I've actually found something, and I'm putting all this money, time, and work into doing something. We found something.
Sure.
Very cool. So before we get to your day today,
go ahead.
What do you think? Now, you living up in the Adirondacks, do you think that you have a population up there that's stationary, or do they migrate to Vermont, down the Catskills? Or is it like, is it just one specific like family or group?
Okay, so here's my theory. And I keep it logical, very logical. So let's take you have a family pod, okay? We'll say you have a family clan, all right? Well, they're gonna produce, right? So as they produce, you're getting into now a structure of dominance, territorial dominance, things like that. This is the animal life. This is humans. Think about humans. Well, what's going to happen? One by one, as you create males, the dominants, they're going to start becoming more dominant as they come up through adolescent teens. It's like when we're teenagers, right? We're indestructible. We're like, oh, we could do everything and blah, blah, blah. And then you start bumping heads, right? Because all that testosterone, and you want to be alpha. So what I personally believe, it's one of two things. And we see this in the animal kingdom. Lions do this. Is that once the sons start coming up, what do they start doing? They challenge the alpha males, right? And that's what I think happens within the Bigfoot clans, is that one of the teenagers challenges an alpha male, and depending on how that comes out, okay, then they'll go off and have to go off and wherever they go, right? So then I believe that a lot of these Bigfoot, sightings that we see in certain areas are the same family. They're all related. The difference is one of the males goes off and then they start their own little thing, and then you have a small population there, and then you have another one that has another male, because you would have to have some kind of incest and inbreeding to keep this population going. I mean, we would have to know that. That's why that's why, in my opinion, from ecology, like how I want to put it, from a genetic standpoint, there we go, that you get cleft palate. People have seen their faces and they have cleft palate where they're missing half their jaw. They've seen where they look like inbred. Like people have said, Gary, they look inbred to me. If you've seen them, their faces are all jazzed up. They're not like, you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, so that would make sense. Through inbreeding ways, these genetic mutations happen, as we know, in people, right? So that's what I kind of think what would happen, because logically it makes sense that when you have one spot, then you have a male that goes off, you have a male that goes off. Next thing you know, they do some inbreeding. Maybe you have a female that goes off. Maybe the mother goes off, and then the father's starting to, and you start getting all these, and they start breaking away. So then they, they may migrate, and I think they do migrate to an extent. Like Mike and I were kind of hinted at earlier. The pines, in my opinion, are where you're going to find the Bigfoot activity the most. And why is that? I have noticed that myself, because the pines in the winter get less snow load. Okay, we're up in upstate, we get snow. So what happens when they cross into Vermont? It's all the pines. When you go into the pines, the snow isn't as deep. The deer hang out in the pines all winter. That's where they feed, because there's food sources in the pines. If you go hunting, as a guy used to be a small game hunter, a lot of the rabbits and stuff are all in the pines. So these are where you find a lot of nature and a lot of animals. Okay, so for that aspect. Then you still have like pine tar, like the pine sap off of trees that the Native Americans used to eat as bubblegum and things like that. Very high in fat, very high in calories. So there's more food sources. During the summer and during the fall and during the spring, the pines, when you're in there with all those pine needles on the ground, it's like a carpet. You can't hear or see anything when you're in the pines. And you guys are probably in the woods. The pines get dark first, right? Like you're in the woods, you're in the hardwoods, it's all open. But you go look into the pine. Oh, it's cooler, it's darker. Anything stealthy can just jump behind those trees. And when I say jump, like go from tree to tree to behind and be stealthy, and you won't even see it. So because it's, once again, darker, quieter, things like that. So that's kind of where I base my hypothesis on, like populations of them. I do believe that they're all the same family in one way, shape, or form, cousins and things like that in a certain area. Like that wouldn't explain Catskills and Adirondacks. I don't think they migrate that far, honestly. Alleghenian. I put more like Allegheny State Forest in the Catskills. I'd put that closer, because once again, that's not as far as a trip. But it may still be from the same genetic, the genetic family code. That's what I believe. So what happened
to you today when you were out in the woods?
So, all right. This is the weirdness. So, and we talked about this a little bit. So last year I looked into the paranormal Bigfoot, and looked into the weirdness of the Bigfoot phenomena. I got so many stories that people come to me that are more spiritual and paranormal in ways than they are biological, which is, it's great. I'm glad that they're coming to me with their stories, and I'm never going to poo on someone's story, especially their truth is their truth. Last week, I went to our main research site in the Adirondacks to set up for the 2022 season. So, basically, I've been working with glyphs, okay? The thing that I told you how I kind of evolved in the Bigfoot phenomena, I went from being like part of entertainment world of doing TV and all that stuff to now I've seen a Bigfoot. So now I kind of just want to do how to communicate with a Bigfoot. And so my wheelhouse for the past 5 years has been collecting data based on communication ways and how we can communicate with each other. I've been using different glyphs, okay? And I have 5 years of data now that backs up that something has been working with these glyphs in my area. And whatever that is, I don't know what it is. I can't tell you it's a Bigfoot, but I do have the data to back up that the glyphs have been changing and they actually have meaning. And that to me is my aha moment. Like, this is awesome. Whatever's going on, there's some form of communication. So went back, was checking out the glyph. Now, the glyph from the year before was still the same. I went back to college. So once I got back into school, my time has been like zero. So I've been doing schoolwork all the time. So I haven't been up to this area as much as I used to. One thing got changed, though, with the glyph from 2021 coming into 2022. As I say, I'm all about the pines, right? So what I did is I set up a bush camp about 4 to 5 miles back in the forest that you have to go through the bush. So it's really hard to find, first off. And I set the glyphs up right in the pine forest. So there's only pine trees. There's no hardwoods. There's no birches. There's no softwoods, oaks. It's just straight pines. I did that on purpose. So then it's basically when I'm in the pines, I can control things a lot better per se, because I'm just dealing with pine trees and things like that. So the glyph that I had down on the ground, this is the weird part too. It was a glyph that was put there in 2021, that I didn't make. So every season, at the end of the season, I break down the glyphs and just leave them. So I don't want anybody to find where there are areas in case a hunter goes through something like that. So I break them down. Well, when I went back in 2021, a glyph was made on the ground. Now, could it be a hunter? Could it be somebody? Anything is possible at this point. So I came back into this year, and this was last week. All of a sudden, at the end of the glyph, there was a big birch stick laid, horizontally down next to the glyph. Now that was super strange to me because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in the pines. There's no birch whatsoever, no birch trees, nothing. No storms could blow it in. Nothing. There's just no way. So something had to carry this birch stick in and lay it down. I remember talking to a Native American person that said that when you get gifted birch, that's actually a spiritual thing. Because birch is, once again, a very positive spiritual thing that the Native Americans used to use in spiritual work. So that was kind of like, all right, that's kind of cool if that's what it is, right? So I'm like, all right, whatever. So upon then looking at these things more, there was hairs. There was hairs on every stick, had hair on it. I'm like, now there's hairs on this stuff? That's kind of cool, right? Not saying it's Bigfoot hair. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying what I think is an animal went over it. An animal kind of just went over it, shredded, maybe shedded on it, got stuck. That's what I'm looking at, right? So I collected the hairs, but unfortunately, I didn't have any of that collection stuff with me. That's how it always works, right? Just like when I find footprints half the time, I don't have my casting material with me. I always, I never have it. It's just I guess I'm an ill-prepared researcher half the time. But so I just, I had a Ziploc bag. I, did the best I can. I got scolded for using Ziploc bags. Sorry, everybody, but I'm a real person and I don't care. So, did it all. That's why I look at it. And then my buddy Will, the hunter man, he's like, yo, Gary, I collect hairs too, and maybe you should do this. So I'm just going to put them in a book and then, laminate them and leave them there. I'm not going to send them to no DNA lab. I'm not going to do any of that because what's the point? It's just going to come back as contaminated, right? Or if it was an unknown species, do you think they're going to tell me, I'm a nobody, that, oh my God, you discovered an unknown species of blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be like, no, you're not going to tell me that. We already know that. I'm just going to put them in this nice little binder. And if I find some porcupine quills, I'll put them next to it. That's the way I look at it. You know what I mean? And I just keep it real. So it is. I mean, that's what it is. But sometimes you got to use your gut instincts, right? All bullshit aside, you got to use your gut instincts. So I was going to go very tech heavy this time. So I was going to set up my trail cameras, right, to see what the deer populations are doing. I set game cameras up not to catch Bigfoots. I don't care about that. I want to see what the animal populations are doing when you see what the deer and what the fox and what the porcupines and things are doing in the woods, that will give you the answer to what's happening at that time. And that's kind of what I do, is build data off the animal populations. Hunters, trappers, they'll tell you the same thing. That's how they work. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do all this stuff. I didn't end up doing it because my gut was telling me, you know what? Because I got this birch stick here now, something was telling me not to do it. Okay. So instead, I put up a digital recorder. I'm like, all right, so I'll just pack a digital recorder, be done, and leave and call it a day. And I'll come back next week, which is today, and pick it up. So I put in, the lithium batteries. It records for 500 hours. I've been using this recorder forever. I've never had any problems with it. Well, sure enough, I posted some videos on my ambassador page to my ambassador teams. And then my buddy, Mike Patrick, he was like, Gary, did you notice that, one of your videos that you were doing, it glitched? And I'm like, nah, I didn't know that, because if I saw that get glitched, I would have been, I'm that person. I'm a perfectionist. So I've been like, Jesus fucking Christ, it glitched. Now I got to start all over. Like, that's how I am. You know what I mean? I have to start it all over. But I didn't notice it. I just didn't notice it. So then, he noticed that. And I'm like, okay, I'll take note of it. So I go back today to pick the recorder up. Well, that recorder with the brand new batteries that records for 500 hours stopped at 2 hours and 40 minutes after I left.
Oh, jeez.
Now, let's go even deeper into that. I was pissed off. That was the first thing. I get there. I'm like, I was pissed. I was expecting to have at least 4 days, because I like the batteries will probably last 4 days. 2 hours and 40 fucking minutes. I was like, yo, no. This did not happen. Right. But at this point, I was already now getting aggravated with this situation. So I'm like, I'm just going to put it in my pocket and let me finish doing what I'm going to do right now. All right. So, setting up cameras in the area now, doing those kind of things, and just leaving them up there once again to monitor the animals. That's the deal. I looked at the glyph. I changed the glyph the last time I was there last week. Nothing happened with the glyph. So nothing's been changed as far as physically. I found a blue, I'm one of those weird spiritual people that, like, if I see something randomly, I'm like, huh. So I found a blue jay feather on the way walking down the trail go into the woods. And I'm like, okay, I'll just take this with me. I don't know why, I just took it, and I added that to the glyph. I have a pair of deer antlers from, a deer that got shot and ate, and it was good and things. And so I gifted deer antlers, as another gift. So I did all that, right? But now I still have this recorder that's just stopped. To give you a backstory, so we've been having electrical problems in this area now for about 4 years. Stating that, okay, I think if you follow the NYBS page, I talked about this a little bit. 2 years ago, I had a game camera, okay, and I go down to set the game camera up, and it wasn't working properly. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. I come all the way into the woods, and I'm sure you guys have had that shit, or you forget something or some bullshit, right? And I'm like, and here I am.
Mm-hmm. First time we went out, we did that.
Okay, so this is my life. Okay, this is what I do. And here I am in the middle of the woods, like, Jesus fucking Christ, this is bullshit. I travel all the way up here. Here I am, and nothing's working. Right? So then I take all the batteries out to try to reset the camera. Right now, these cameras are very expensive cameras. I only use top of the line cameras. So I take all the batteries out of the camera. Guess what happens once all the batteries are out of the camera? For 1 minute with no batteries, and I have this recorded on film, and Joe can back me up. Joe, Western New York Bigfoot in the group, because he saw this. It still works with no batteries for a minute. No power in it. None. I'm dead ass serious. Swear on my kids.
Wow.
Yeah. Now you tell me that. Now this is where it gets really fucked up. Pardon my language. Sorry.
No.
Okay. Which gets really messed up. So after I got all pissed off down there because nothing was working down there, then that happened, and I have my cell phone out, like trying to like tape it, And then I'm sending it to like Joe, my ambassadors, and everybody like, yo, do you see this shit right now? Like once I got into service, that is, like, do you see this? Like, this is insane. Like, this is logically impossible. Okay. I get up to my car battery is completely dead. Completely dead.
Wow.
Now I'm in the woods. I'm 10 miles from service. 10 miles. Okay.
Holy shit.
And now, luckily, there was a car nearby there, and there was a bunch of people partying. Thank God for the COs. They were corrections officers. Thank God they were partying at this campsite in the woods, right? So they go to jump my car. Now my car's brand new. It's not an old car. It's a brand new car. They go to try to jump it, and the guy's like, "We can't even jump your car. The battery's completely dead." Now, and this is the summer. You're talking about summertime, not winter, not fall, summer. So even if your battery's low in the summer, you should be able to get enough juice to start your car battery and go, right? So that's the weirdness. So this is setting up now to this story, because now I have a digital recorder that has died completely, right? And it stopped recording. I don't have anything for that. I don't. Logically, I don't. Now, for the paranormal people that think Bigfoot's spiritual, Kenney will speak for this too, because I brought Kenney down there one day, and we played Native American music. One thing I do is Native American call blasting, okay? Because I believe, once again, I use the Native American lore of the Bigfoot. So, and sure enough, we start playing this native music, and then we saw orbs start flying across the freaking sky. It like big balls of light just come out of nowhere in the woods. We all saw it. We all saw it. Okay. And Kenney talks about that story in a lot of podcast shows. So here I am now with a dead recorder with 2 hours and 40 minutes after I left, when Mike Patrick said, well, Gary, your video showed that it glitched. So I was having some kind of electrical disturbances happen in this area while I was there. But what I find cool now, because I was kind of like with the glitch on my phone, I'm like, whatever. But now I have that backed up. Let's even take that one step farther, because now I'm really pissed off when I get home. And I was like 6 o'clock right before the show, and I'm pulling out the recorder. I'm putting the batteries in a battery tester, because I'm a paranormal guy. I have battery testers, so I'm always testing batteries to see what they are. All the batteries are brand new. I put them in the tester, full charge, both batteries. So now I'm left. Yeah. Now I'm left with, well, the batteries didn't die. So it wasn't battery drainage, because that's why I was like, maybe the battery's drained out. And I'm being logical. Once again, I'm still being logical. Batteries drained out. Maybe I was sold a bad set of batteries, right? Because these batteries sit in these stores for how long? We don't know, right? So they're still completely charged. I took pictures of the batteries and I sent them to my ambassadors and my page. I'm like, yo, look at this. They're full, right? Then I'm like, I got to listen to this thing. So when I listen to it, all you hear is magnetic disturbance. So you hear me talking in the background, and all you hear is electricity and magnetic disturbance in the background. Right when I start the recorder and I'm tagging it. So for me personally, I'm like, all right, let's logic. Once again, logic. I have Mike Patrick telling me about glitches on my video when I'm taking it in the same period of time. I put a recorder down. It stops 2 hours and 40 minutes into a session, which has never happened. And I've had this recorder forever, and it's never glitched. I use it all the time. So, I mean, it's a good piece of equipment, an expensive piece of equipment. The batteries are both fully charged. So it wasn't battery malfunction. It wasn't that the recorder overheated and it shut down. Nothing like that. Everything was kosher and everything was good to go. So now I'm just left with, and then I have recordings and it's all magnetic, like sounding like you can hear. It's just all that magnetic frequency interference. That once again, I've only picked that stuff up when I'm working in high energy environments in the past, which I have recorded plenty of that stuff in the past, but I've known it's been high energy environments, and they've also been very paranormally active environments. Okay. So now I'm kind of left with, it's fuckery. That's where I'm left with, because I just told you the story of the trail camera that it happened there, right? So and my car battery dying, and none of that's bullshit. That's all facts. So I'm kind of left with WTF, because that's all I have. I'm not saying it's Bigfoot. I'm not saying anything of the sort like that. But what I can tell you, I also found a 13-inch track today right outside my bush camp.
Really?
Unfortunately, as you guys know, when you take, I have pictures, but when you take pictures with your phone and leaf litter of Bigfoot tracks, they look like shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was trying to use the LiDAR thing, and I'm like, that thing wasn't freaking working. And I was like, are you? And it's pouring. It was absolutely up here. It was pouring today. So I'm out in the pouring rain. And I'm just like, this is the stuff that happens. But there was one track. So we're kind of left with, you know, at the end of the day, I just don't know. I don't know. And I have nothing for it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And listen, and you guys know me. I'm a straightforward person.
Yeah.
So if I tell you the fact, like that's the fact of the matter. And the thing is though, once again, I'm a data oriented person. So, you know, if I'm gonna go by data now, I just gave you a bunch of different scenarios and a bunch of different facts that add up to that all correlate with an energy thing. Okay, which regardless of if we look at Bigfoot or not, I do have Bigfoot evidence, okay, in an area that has been known for battery and electronic disturbance, everything, right? So I can put that together and be like, well, here's the evidence, and these are the facts of the matter. I have foot tracks right in the center of my bush camp. I have foot tracks that actually were right in front of glyphs that I've set down. I have tracks on the outside of camp. And then we have all this kind of weirdness that happens. And then I have glyphs moving. So they're interchanging the sticks and doing all sorts of weird shit. And then I have batteries and all this weird shit that's going on. And it's not even batteries dying. It's like the batteries aren't dead. It's just the equipment. It's like extra energy almost. Which then, you know, when I talk to some people, like, well, maybe there's a portal there, or maybe there's this. And I mean, I don't go that far. You know, I go more, is there a lot of iron under the ground? Is there a lot of gases that I'm not sensing? But then even the gases, I feel like I would get nauseous because I'm there. So after a while, I feel like I would get nauseous. Because if I'm being, that would mean that I'm being susceptible to either a lot of EMF, a lot of those kind of things. But I don't get nauseous or anything when I'm there. So then that's another thing that's kind of like, you know, the weirdness.
Does this shift you from to lean more towards paranormal then, or are you still kind
of? Hell no. Listen, I will always. Oh, and there's Mike right there. What's up, Mike? So I will. I'm always open to the paranormal side, and I'm very open. I don't know what Bigfoot is. So if people say, well, Gary, it's an alien, okay. If people say, Gary, it's a shapeshifter and it can go through portals, okay. You know, if it's a biological being, okay. I just stay on the side of the biological side. But I'm open to everything. So I'll never shit or poo on somebody that has a different belief than me, because that's not right. It's not right. You know, but I also look into all sides of it. So I do, like you say, I will experiment with the paranormal side. I'll bring an EDI meter into the woods with me. I'll bring tri-field meters into there. There we go. Yeah, Gary, have I taken a meter? Yes, I have. Taken tri-field meters, natural tri-field meters. If anybody doesn't know what an EDI meter is, that's used in ghost work. It measures temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, vibration, and EMF all at the same time. Now, as a nerd that I am collecting data, you put a little SD card into it, you push record, and every 1 second it's recording for me. So I can then pull up on an Excel spreadsheet everything, and I know exactly what's happening in the environment at that time. It sucks to look through though, because it's just a bunch of numbers. But when you get that one like hit, you're like, yes, it's so awesome, you know. But you have to use it a million times. But
real quick, with as far as the batteries, the lithium batteries.
Yeah.
Now it's said that the bear and like elephants are kind of irritated by it and they can smell it. Do you think Bigfoot are the same, or as far as like being able to recognize it and maybe even be irritated by it?
I look at it like this. I mean, that could be that would logically, once again, make sense, right? They say the same thing with game cameras, right? Because they give off the high pitches, and then people have proven that they don't, and they go back and forth on that. I look at it simple. Okay. Do you guys hunt at all? Have you guys ever been a hunter?
I
Do you
do,
know?
yeah.
Okay, so you hunt, right? I used to be an avid bow hunter, right? So when we go bow hunting and hunting, what do? We dress up in camo, right? We make sure we don't smell. We put all this non-smelly shit on us to cover our scent, right? And then we go into the woods. Well, here we are now going into the woods as Bigfoot researchers, right? This is why I find funny that people that wear camouflage and smoke cigarettes at the same time. Okay, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I just find it funny because I've been scolded by people for wearing bright orange shirts in the woods. Bright orange. I look and I have Billabong t-shirts. You know, I was a skater kid, you know, come from that kid. And be like, why are you wearing that in the woods? You know, they're gonna see you. And I'm like, well, you're smoking cigarettes. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, just stop. Just stop. But when we go into the woods, I don't think it's so much the sounds and the lithium batteries and everything. Think about it. When you put a game camera on a tree, right? Mike and I, as hunters, even though we have doe piss all over us or whatever the hell we got on us, skunk shit,
Sweet.
right? Yeah, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So, but we're scenting up that tree with our hands, our skin cells. They can smell. Animals are so in tune with their environment. Even small animals like chipmunks and mice and all that shit. We're scenting up everything. We can only hide our scent for so long, right? So even when we're in the woods, every boot step we take through the woods, we have hairs falling off. We have all that type of stuff. Those have scent on them. So these animals can smell us going through the woods. On top of that, when we start now doing other things like putting up tree stands and doing all that kind of stuff.
I just want to add real quickly. Apparently, your scent could stay on a trail camera for up to like a week.
Yeah. Okay. So we're looking for an elusive creature, right? That we can't find. And we try to go to these places now that we have evidence, right? That they are. That thing's going to know that we were there the first day because we can't be quiet in the woods. As stealthy as you can be in the woods, you're not quiet. Mm-hmm. We're not. None of us are.
I get yelled at for shutting the door too loud. And I'm like, we just rolled up in the V8 Suburban. What the
hell are you going to do? Yeah. So now I do what you do. And I try to be noisy as fuck because I've given up on it. Honestly, I've given up on the stealthy shit. I see the people that are out there wearing camo and they're smoking and then they're like yelling at you because you're too loud and stuff. I'm like, dude, you stink. Like, just stop. Like, be honest. Like, you know what I mean? You're not thinking logically. And then, you go into, the woods and you're in the woods and then they're not, then you're just standing there. Well, everything can smell you anyway. So what I've just done now is the opposite. Like I told you, I used to get yelled at for wearing bright orange Billabong t-shirts in the woods. I had used to have bleach blonde spiky hair and fucking earrings and everything. And I just be walking through the woods like, hey, here I am, everybody. I just go that way because we're not going to hide. You're not going to sneak up on a Bigfoot. It's not going to happen. And you're not going to hide from one. And if you do sneak up on a Bigfoot, it's because it's probably more than likely like a juvenile or something like that. And it's not paying attention to you anyway. But it's not like we're sitting there like you're a ninja and you're doing ninja skills through the woods. And then, I snuck up on this thing. It's just not going to happen.
That's great points.
I mean, that's
good. Good. I gotta go Bigfooting with you. I won't get yelled at then.
No, you can call me anytime. You both of you. We're gonna go anyway. So yeah.
Awesome.
But I'm not about and I've stopped that. Like I once again, remember I told you before, I was all about that life. I bought all the fucking Under Armour camo that was like $200 for a shirt. That was those no scent shirts that had the EMF in it. So because your bodies give off an EMF field, as a lot if you don't know, and they have hunting clothes that blocks your EMF field. So animals can't. Oh yeah. So animals can't. I can send it to you. So animals can't pick up your EMF fields. So once again, it's said that animals know that you're there because they can sense your electromagnetic field that you give off. I had all that shit, and honestly, it hasn't got me any further than I am now. In the two sightings that I saw, I was in snowshoes with a huge backpack that's like through the woods, and then the other time I was just dressed normal and I was just in the woods. So I've given up on it. Even my trail cameras. I used to hide my trail cameras so damn good, and I used to be so proud of it. I used to dig them into the ground, and I made little huts for them. And it was almost like a work of art, like a troll house. That's what I used to call them, my little troll houses.
Mhm.
And you know what? And I used to get really cool raccoon pictures because they come right up to their face. You know, if I had that fishbowl lens, it would look awesome. And but it got me nothing. So now what I do is I leave them right out in the open. I just leave them. You know, here they are. If someone's going to steal them, you're going to steal them. I can't help that, right?
Yeah.
And then we already know that, if, like you say, if the Bigfoot can hear them, well, I'm already fucked, right? So it doesn't matter. That's why I tell you I don't care if I catch what on film or not, because if that's the way it goes, then they're already going to know anyway. But the animals are still going to give me an answer of what's happening. If I have deer for like 4 or 5 days straight, then they disappear for like a week, what happened? Then they came back. Something happened within that week. So now I can start looking at, is it the moon phase? Did the moon phase shift? Did the weather shift? Let me go check the weather. Let me check the barometric pressure now. Is there something weird in the environment? Now that I'm finding all this electrical disturbance shit that I don't know what it is, what could it be that was really high at that point in time and the animals are actually scared to be there? So because it drove them away. So when we look at that kind of stuff from a data and a whole, then it really doesn't matter what we do with all these, try to hide shit. It just doesn't matter, in my opinion. You know, there's plenty of people that will climb trees and put them up in trees to look down. If you want to do that, that's great. You know, there's nothing wrong with that either. But we're all this. I mean, as long as we're doing, you know, things happy and positive, we're all being positive. We're all having fun, and we're not bashing each other. Then it doesn't really matter how we do shit.
Yeah.
So what time of day do you go out usually to investigate? Is it like all night, or do you have a specific time?
I'm a night guy.
Yeah.
So the last 2 weeks I've gone out during the day because that's kind of how my schedule's been with school. So I get out of class and then I go right after class. But normally when, you know, Rachel, myself, Kenney, Luke, and my team will go out, it's usually at nighttime. And I drag them out in the woods at night. We're out there till, you know, sometimes 12, 1, 2 in the morning. But with my team, it's a little bit different. All of us, like myself and Rachel, we're both mountaineers. We understand survival, things like that. Kenney, I've been slowly trying to teach Kenney about survival, but he's with us anyway. So if anything happens, we can get Kenney safely out of the woods. At nighttime, it's a totally different beast because we're not at a nice campsite or one of those back row campsites. That's not where we are. We're literally miles in the woods. So you need to know how to get back out. And as you know, it's really easy to get turned out of the woods. So that's kind of how we function. Everybody on my team has to have some kind. I make them carry the 10 essentials and a survival kit with them. So they all have rucks. They all have survival gear in there, so we can at least last at least 2 days if something were to happen. That's how I function. So it's a little bit different than most probably teams go out. You know, because it's just if you're going to do something, it's not so much that I just want to be away from people, A, but B, I want to be in an area where I can control the narrative. And what I mean by that is if I set something up, I can pretty much almost like 90% guarantee humans aren't interacting with what I'm doing. You know, so I leave that at the 90% range. And I always have a trail camera or game camera somewhere that would show me someone's in there. So unless it doesn't trip it that 1 or 2 times, because you know game cameras are crap anyway half the time. So I know I'm at that, you know, just keep it controlled situation.
So I want to shift gear. I want to shift gears real quickly. You know, we talked about the Adirondacks. We talked about the Catskills. You know, I went to college in Buffalo. You know, I go hunting out in Western New York. I'm a huge Western New York guy. You know, I love that part of the state. In my opinion, I think Western New York is probably one of the more underrated areas for this type of research or reports and sightings and whatnot. What can you, just like, you know, like what can you tell me about your experiences, reports with that part of the state? And if you want to touch on the Finger Lakes too, I rarely hear anything coming out of there. I know in the Finger Lakes, so the Finger Lakes has 2 things. It's got the only national forest in New York State, and I believe it has the biggest WMA in New York State. They're all within close proximity to each other.
Okay.
What kind of? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. How often you get reports out of those areas? What kind of like overlapping characteristics they might have?
So I've been out there a couple of times. Actually, Joe from Western New York Bigfoot. We've teamed up a couple of times. He's one of my first ambassadors, and he's a great guy. I love him to death. And we've teamed up
We
a
met
couple
him,
of times. Yeah, he's cool. He's a cool dude. You know what I mean? He's old school and he knows his stuff. And I respect that because those are the people we still need, are the old school people that know their stuff. I bring a new school flair, you know, which is great because, like, you know, with technology and everything, but it's those old school people are who we learn the most from. And you know, so I've been out there. I've been to Watertown, okay, and Watertown supposedly has a population of Bigfoots. I did an investigation on a private property there. And there's a lot of wild forest, state forests in those areas. I didn't realize that Watertown in general has a lot of state forests. And actually, when you look at it, all these state forests are all connected. And then they go right into like Boonville, the lower Adirondacks, things like that. And I'm like, okay, so this is, you know, this could be something. Down in the Finger Lakes, I do have a couple reports coming from the Finger Lake Trail. There's that really long hiking trail that goes all the way through. People have had sighting reports off on the trail while they're out on the trail. So we do have that also. I did another investigation with Joe. We went out to, oh my God. Now I'm drawing a blank because it was me, Joe, Rachel went. It's above Letchworth State Park. Okay. So you know where Letchworth is?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah, gorgeous.
Okay. So
Yeah,
so it's north because so Rachel and I went out there, then Joe and I went out there. I'm trying to like not get my timeline correct.
There's been a couple of sightings in Letchworth too, right?
Yeah, and I always question Letchworth though, because once again, that's like a high peaks. So overpopulated in there. It wouldn't surprise me if one wanders through there. And when I was thinking about the high peaks, when I just remembered, so the Dix Range, so East Dix and all and Macomb and all that, they do have sightings in the Dix Range in the high peaks. That is the one area, but once again, that's one of the lower sides of that you go into the lower Adirondacks. Because once again, the Dix Range is when you come into the Adirondack, when you start getting into the high peak range. So I just remembered that when we were talking before. But anyway, I know I digressed there. But yeah, Letchworth maybe, but that's like a high peak. That's a high peak. It's very busy. So it's like, I don't know, maybe one will wander through. This was north. This was about 45 minutes north of Letchworth. We got called out to a house. The woman said that she had a Bigfoot on her property. That she's had him for years. As a child, she saw one eating the blueberries off the blueberry bushes when she was waiting for the school bus. Joe and I went out there because Joe's closer to her. So we went out, we scouted the lands, did all that, did a night op. We did get some weird stuff at nighttime. He won't talk about the weird stuff that we got because he's not into the paranormal weird stuff that we got. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, we got weird stuff. Okay. I also did catch a trail cam photo, and I'll send it to you guys, of something really fucking weird. I don't know what it is, but there is definitely something there. And I was going through, is it an owl? Is it a bird? But it's really, really weird. I'm just left with, I don't know. But we did investigate that area, but that was 45 minutes north of Letchworth. But
how far is it from Rochester? Isn't Rochester like kind of north of that as well? I mean,
yeah. So I guess it's probably like probably in the smack in the middle of those. So right. If you take Letchworth and you go a little bit north, I wish I could freaking remember the town. That's really bothering me. And then
was it near the river? Was it the Tennessee River? Right.
I want to say it starts with a B.
Baldwinsville, not Baldwinsville.
Joe, do you remember? Joe's in the chat. Joe, do you remember that? Where was that town that lady lived in? Do you remember? I'll watch the chat because he came with me. He went back. So he went back because he put up trail cameras. So once we were done, I'm like, all right, Joe, this is kind of how my ambassador program works. I'll go out if I need to go out and do the initial stuff because they'll contact me. Once I'm kind of done with the initial stuff, since Joe's closer, and if I, same thing with you guys. If I get, like we did Nuclear Lake, right? So when I'll send teams to where I feel that, this is your wheelhouse. You're down there. If I feel the need to go come down, or you tell me, well, Gary, this is pretty hot spot. Let's now set up some stuff, and we take all of our equipment and we bring it down, right? So, and that's what I did with Joe. Joe ended up setting up trail cameras all around the property. He had easier access to it than I, because it was a 5-hour drive for me one way.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a hike for a day. And so we didn't find anything on trail cameras. We didn't find anything. She did contact me recently. I'll have to send it over to you guys. Well, I'll find where it is. I forget the town.
Batavia?
Batavia, that's it. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Batavia. Yeah.
That's it, Batavia.
Give Brendan the prize. He texted me it.
Okay, Batavia. Brendan, you're the man. That's what it is, Batavia.
That's only like an hour from Buffalo, I think.
Yeah. So it's like 45 minutes north of Letchworth. The only reason I knew that because Rachel and I were at Letchworth, and then it was pouring rain, and I'm like, yo, we got to go to this lady's house. And she goes, it's raining now. We have a long. I'm like, we're going.
Sure.
So yes, and lots of deer. There was tons of deer on the property. So from a food source, it was amazing because she had a farm next door to her house. So I think they had they had soybeans or some kind of beans on this farm, and then you had deer everywhere. You had blueberry bushes, and it was on a swamp state like wildlife management preserve. So, and I was like going through the middle of the woods, and literally it's swamps. So like it was awful trying to move through this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, it's like perfect. If you're a Sasquatch, it's perfect to hide because you have all this food. Plus, you just disappear into the swamps. Coyotes too. Yeah, we heard the coyotes. So there was just a lot. Batavia, that's correct. So yeah, so there. I mean, we do, and then you have what? What's it called?
And especially along the southern tier, there's a lot of wood. Like there's a lot of like dense, remote wooded areas. Like all of Western New York, it's just farmland,
the PA
forests.
border. Yeah, and you got the PA border, and that's a different, and that's why I think the PA border and PA is so popular with the Bigfoot phenomena. Because think about it, you have the forest of PA, all right, and then they cross the border to New York, and what is it? All farms. New York agriculture is huge compared to PA's agriculture. So you go from all this forest to all these farms in like 2 or 3 roads. And then they can just dip back into the woods and migrate back down. So that's why I really do think that these populations on the southern New York border, they migrate across the PA border depending on what the food sources are. That's why I also think what they do in the Catskills with the apple orchards, because that's why, once again, they would eat the apples. They come when the apples happen. You start hearing all these different reports all around these areas, and then they disappear. Follow the food sources. Like anything, you'll find at least the activity. I'm not saying you'll find a Bigfoot, but you'll find the activity. That's why I follow the deer. In my area, I follow the deer. There's a lot of oak trees, the acorns, things like that. I believe my area in the Adirondacks is actually a nursery. That's what I believe. The only reason I believe that, I find baby tracks. I'll send you guys the pictures of the baby tracks I found. Mm-hmm. And and I believe it's a nursery. Some of the activity and behavior we get there is very crazy, juvenile type behavior of screaming, screams, tree shaking, all this weird stuff. Yes, Joe did find possible prints at that lady's house too. We also found a possible blind in Batavia where they look like Joe showed it to me. I never even thought about this. So this is why you got to have an old school guy on your team. Mm-hmm. He showed me how there was like an intertwining of sticks and trees, and it looked like they made a blind. And the track we found was right behind the blind. And it was an old track, but it was there. Joe's really good when it comes to tracks. That's his wheelhouse. But yeah, so up in the Adirondacks, like I say, I believe it's a nursery, and we get all that tree shaking, all that extreme weird behavior that an adult Bigfoot, male or female, wouldn't really do.
What's your opinion on wood knocks and like? I know you're big into communication. I mean, do you think they're walking around with sticks, or they use? No. I mean, they use them. No.
I think time out. All right, so Footer Nation, I like to call you Footer Nation. When it comes to tree knocks, I want you to go into the woods in your backyard, your local park. I want you to go in the woods and pick up a stick, and I want you to try to hit a tree. And you tell me what happens to that stick. Everything on the forest floor is tree rot. If you take a stick and hit a tree, you can't get that same sound over and over. And then you have finding Bigfoot dudes out there with Louisville sluggers slamming trees. But you know why they do that? Because they want to have that one good knock, right? You want that hollow knock. My opinion about tree knocking is this: it's not a tree knock at all. It's a vocal. I believe it's a vocal. Why do I believe it's a vocal? When we look at the they either go like that, like a cluck sound, or a throat vocal. Because when we look at the largest mammals and primates and everything on the planet, okay, what do elephants do? They start slamming their feet into the ground. Another elephant can, so that's echo vibration, echolocation, right? Another elephant can feel that miles away. Miles. That's fact. Whales, they communicate through echolocation. Dolphins, echolocation. Lions put out a roar that actually, they look like they're yawning. They're not yawning at all. They're actually putting out a vocal that humans can't hear, but other lions can hear. Okay. A Bigfoot is because a Bigfoot would be if we believe it's an ape or a human, right? It would be the largest primate that we know. So if you look at the size of their head, their mandibles, their jaws, their vocal boxes, everything about them is so large that when you go, they would be able to make it even louder than we can. Okay. And I think that's why you get the same exact sound every single time. Because it's logically impossible to take a stick and hit a tree and get the same exact sound every single time. That's logically impossible.
Right. Wow.
But when you do a vocal, so when we do a vocal though, it could be exactly, it'll be the same every time. Birds chirping, animals, coyotes, you hear a coyote go, right off the bat, right? It's always the same. I believe Bigfoots do the same thing. So I believe when they do that what we call tree knocking with each other, I believe that they're very close to us. That they're close enough where we can hear, but they're so big, it's like a woodpecker hitting a tree. You can be far into the woods and hear animals far in the woods, right? I don't have to be near a pack of coyotes to hear coyotes in the woods. Okay? Or like a raccoon screaming. If you ever heard a raccoon scream, you can hear that like up to a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
So these creatures are so big that it would be plausible that they could be a half mile away from you and you would still hear, because you're in the woods, it's quiet and it echoes. So that's what I believe.
So it's not threatened. They're not threatened by you. They just maybe realize you're there.
Yeah.
Because they could probably, okay.
And there's actually documentation that's even go further if we're talking primates. Okay. So there's documentation of tribes of people that do those. If you watch native people, you'll see that they cluck at each other. They go and do certain types of things. All right. Think of us as people. We make gestures to each other, right? So whenever I leave a show, I go, deuces, everyone. Deuce. You know, we make gestures, right?
Yeah.
So all I believe what a Bigfoot's doing, it's a gesture to another Bigfoot. So that's why I feel like you'll get like one over here to your left, and then you hear another one on your right. Because really, when it comes to, animals and things like that, where people are always like, people go, well, Bigfoot's interested in you. You ever hear like I always used to say that I was at fault when I said this. I used to say we're Bigfoot's entertainment. Okay. Because that's what I was taught that. I don't believe that at all. I believe that the minute we walk into the woods, we're a threat. Because we're into their world. What animals do you know that when you go into the woods, they come hang out with you?
None.
Think about it. I'm keeping the straight arrow. If I walk into your house and you don't know me,
I'm probably going to politely but firmly ask you to leave.
And you're going
to go for my bat.
Yeah, you're going to beat the shit out of me. Okay? Yeah. So what I don't know where this came from, that people think that the minute we go into the woods, I'm not saying Bigfoots are just going to hurt you, but what I'm saying is we got to really err on the side of safety. Like I tell my kids and Rachel and stuff, like there's 1% chance I may not come home. When you go into the woods, it doesn't matter. When you go into the woods, you may not come out. That's a fact. Doesn't matter how experienced you are. Doesn't matter how experienced you are. So, you got to always err on that safety. And I always say it to everybody. When people see, finding Bigfoot, expedition, Bigfoot, all that shit, they make it seem like it's a hobby and it's fun. It is a hobby, but it's a fun hobby, basically. But in the real world, like us guys right here that, aren't rich and famous and, all that shit, we're just normal everyday people. When we go into the woods, there's that chance that, we don't know what we're going to come across. We may not come out. So when we do this work, it's actually is serious work, because especially when we were just talking about vocals and communication, if I have a Bigfoot over here and a Bigfoot over here, and they're doing those with each other to let them know that, oh shit, something's in the woods now with us. That's not, we're their entertainment. That's, you know what? There's something here with us.
Let's keep an eye on them.
Let's keep an eye on them and see what they do. And that's the way I always approach it. And people are like, well, you're extreme about it. No, I'm logical. Because you tell me, once again, if I go in the woods with apes and everything, they're not going to sit there and be like, oh, hey, what's up? Everything scatters. Even the apes. People who think, when you chimps, apes, monkeys, when you watch these documentaries, right? These people walk into the chimps where all the chimps are to do their work. What did the chimps start doing? Screaming, shaking trees, violent. They start going crazy. So I don't know where it ever started to think that a Bigfoot would just sit down with you and have a beer and just be cool with you. Because you're a threat. We're a threat.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the experience Mike and I had together up in one of the areas we research, where we heard what we thought was rock clacking.
Yep.
And then we heard a wood knock, what we thought was a wood knock response. So, like you said, it could have been just them using their vocals, know?
And I have rock clacking on tape. I have it recorded up in my area. Once again, this was going back. I think it's like 2014, 15. We have it where they start slamming rocks together, and it was fun. And it sounds clear as day. I put a recorder down, and as I was coming down the hill to go grab the recorder, something obviously must have heard me coming down the hill. I do believe they do carry rocks in their hands. I do. Because that, once again, makes logic. It's easier to carry rock in your hand and I've had rocks thrown at me. So because I've had rocks thrown at me magically out of nowhere, to me, and it makes sense. But from a defense, just to see what you're gonna do, But the whole wood knock thing, it just doesn't make sense to me. Only because I know from so much experience of picking up dead wood in the woods, trying to get you. How many times? I mean, you guys do it too. How many times do you actually get the same knock on a tree?
You don't.
Yeah.
How many branches do you break before you even find one?
And that's the thing too. Like, whenever I've tried to do wood knocks or anything like that, I'm very, very nitpicky about finding like a good stick or something like that. And sometimes it takes a while, Yeah. And then you got to find like a good tree with a good surface to do something like that. Yeah. So I totally. The other thing too, like going back to the throwing, like large primates, like chimpanzees, gorillas, they've been observed throwing rocks and sticks and objects and things like that. So there's that parallel.
Yeah, and they can use rocks, like you say. Like you guys heard rock clacking, right? I've heard rock clacking, which I think is one of the most amazing sounds. I think rock clacking is way better than vocals, because literally something is sitting there with two rocks smacking them. To me, that's more evidence of a Bigfoot than a Bigfoot going roar. Because people will be like, no, that's a bear in heat, or that's some bullshit, or that's a mountain lion, or that's a wolf, and things like that. Because once again, we do have these animals, and we don't know what animal sounds make in different situations, right?
Yeah.
So me and, once again, my buddy Will, the hunter man, we were just listening to sounds someone sent of. They thought it was a dog man, and I'm not into dog man. I can't get into dog man, so that's not my thing once again. But it sounds like when we started listening to it, it's a wolf. It sounds like a wolf. We know New York State has wolves, just not large populations. So that, once again, these are the animals that people aren't used to hearing, right? If a bear cub if a mama bear, if a pack of coyotes kill a cub, and the mother bear's there, she's gonna go fucking ballistic.
Oh yeah.
But until you actually have that recorded over and over, none of us are going to know what that sounds like. a Bigfoot's, then people are like, oh my God, that sounds like a Bigfoot. Do you hear that? Because it's so far away. It's going through the valley, but that could just be a mother bellowing out or a moose bellowing out, and it echoes through the valley. So then we hear it as, what the fuck is that? That must be a Bigfoot, and it's only that because we don't know these animal sounds. We don't know them all.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, especially if you're not well versed in like different animal sounds, like you said, animals make sounds that we don't even know. When you're out in the woods, you hear something like that, the confirmation bias kicks in, and then you just run away with it.
But now, when you have rock clacking, that's the goal to me. You tell me what rock clacks in the woods. For me, nothing, right? Yeah, people. It has to be another person, right? Because you would have to use two hands and start. So for me, me personally, that shit is gold. Because you guys know, you've been doing this for a long time too. You know the difference, and you can't. It's harder to debunk rock clacking than it is going through the animal sound library and wasting our lives when we can be doing something productive in life.
Well, Gary, listen, we could probably talk with you all night about this stuff.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Looks like we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. But
thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Man, I had a freaking blast talking to you. This is the first show we've done in a couple of weeks, so this was great. This is really fucking great just to get back into the swing of things. Like you were tremendous. You, Kenney, you were tremendous. Tremendous.
We thank you, and I'm just glad that we're all New York researchers, and that's what's awesome. You know what I mean? And that's what I was saying. Like, we're a group of people in New York doing the work in New York.
For sure.
I only do New York. People are always like, why don't you go to Vermont? Listen, I just do New York. I don't have time for that shit. So it's nice that we can all get together and we share the same love for what we do in our state. And look at it. We all had the same stories. You guys had rock clacking. I have rock clacking. That's data. We can now back that up being like, well, you know what? We both have data of rock clacking. You know what I mean? And then we get to learn new things from each other.
Technically, that was New Jersey.
All right. Okay.
Technically, that was in New Jersey.
Oh man, fucking Jersey, man, Jersey. But anyway, no. So fucking Jersey. But no. So it's like, it's what it's all about, is communicating with each other and being this positive, happy people, 100%. And that's what we are. So I thank you all, and and like I say to everybody out there before I leave, just be good to each other, help one another. Be positive. Don't bash each other over stupid shit on Facebook, because Facebook isn't real life. And just, be accepting. Yeah, it's okay to agree to disagree, and we can still be friends. Okay, so that's what it's about. So I leave you all with that.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to connecting and getting out in the woods with you. So
working together.
This summer we're going to be rocking it. So
yeah, definitely. Charlie, before we sign off, before we sign off, Charlie, why don't you tell us about
Well, we got Saturday, special day. We got Michael Merchant coming back on the show at 2 p.m. May 7th. So Brendan's gonna have that interview, and I hope everyone tunes in to see this. He was great the last time we had him on, so it should be very informative. Sure. And then also, Garrett, after we're done with this, just stay on the line. Don't hang up. We'll chat after we're done.
Works for me. Cool.
All right. Yeah. Well, definitely want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, I want to thank, Gary and Kenney and New York Bigfoot Society for coming on. Definitely love to have you guys on again in the future. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. You can play us out, Brendan.
Hey, this is Chuck Larson. You're watching CARC channel on YouTube.
You've been watching From Behind Tall Trees, a Catskill Appalachian Research Collective production. For more information on this program and others like it, remember to like, share, and subscribe to CARC Universal today. To join the conversation on our Facebook group, become a member of the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective Facebook group. CARC. Relentless.